Hey guys, welcome back to the Anne's POV podcast. My name is Dan, and I am so glad and thankful for each and every one of you guys that decided to join me here today. So let's get into the episode. So this past weekend, I went to go visit a lot of my old mentors, and I'm honestly internally grateful for all these people just because they helped me shape the person that I am today. We talked a lot about, like the past and just the reminiscing. I asked them a lot of questions about what they were up to, and they asked a lot of questions about what I was up to. And it was just amazing just like reconnecting with them. But the thing that I really realized was how far I've come as a person and how I changed. And I'm telling you guys, like, it took me a couple years. Like, a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my podcast is within these past like 3 or 4 years. And I kind of was just comparing who I am today to the person I was once they first met me. And honestly, it's a little crazy, mainly because these past couple years I worked on figuring out who I am and shaping my values, beliefs, and purpose. You know what I mean? Um, and once I started, like, going back to when I was 18 and I was going into college, like, I was definitely run by curiosity because I was curious about the natural world and all these things, which led me to the school I attended. Um, and it was just so crazy to me because I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of my interests were passions. I didn't think I had a lot of passions growing up. Like when I'm a kid, I'm goofing off, you know what I mean? Um, and once people started asking me about what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or all these like questions about my future, and I didn't have a clear cut answer, it kind of led to me having a whole like identity crisis at 18. And I'll be honest, it was very uncomfortable because I didn't have the answers to a lot of their questions. And I'll never forget the first day of college because my school particularly did like a welcome week. You get to meet a lot of your classmates and everything. And I was like talking to a few of my classmates, and I can literally hear the passion, right? Like you can feel it at some point. I was like, wow, like they're all just so passionate about what they want to study or what they want to do with their lives. And I'm just sitting here with no clear idea. And I wouldn't necessarily say I felt jealous of them. I would say that I admired it, you know what I mean? Like it was real admiration. I love to see when people are just so passionate about something and they just care about it so much. But at the same time, it was really hard for me because I was in the middle of this whole identity crisis because I didn't know who I was. Like I didn't know what excited me in a way, you know what I mean? I didn't feel very clear of who I was or who I wanted to be. And honestly, it was really scary for me. Like I was terrified because I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be. And it kind of led me into a panic. I started to just think about why I didn't have any passions like that or even have a clear cut idea of who I was. And it was like kind of a hard pill to swallow at the time. And I was kind of scared of just living in this uncertainty because I feel like people just kept asking me these questions and the pressure was on and I just didn't know the answer. So what I decided to do was create this identity for myself. Like I was the girl that had it all figured out. I was the girl that knew exactly what she wanted, exactly what she believed in, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to say a lot of that identity was false, but then a lot of it was to just portray this responsible girl that knew everything about herself, and that just was not the case. And the more I forced it, the harder it was to keep up this front. And I just let this internal struggle or this full-on identity crisis kind of just build up in my head, and all this internal pressure get to me until I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I'll be honest, like, it's hard to figure out who you are in this moment, and I guess like the pressure really got to me. And when I was growing up, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be 1,000% transparent here. I didn't have a lot of dreams. Like, I didn't have a dream school, I didn't have a dream career, none of that. And going into, I guess, the real world, where everybody around me had these dreams, these passions, these ambitions, it was kind of daunting. Like, I felt like I was behind on something, which honestly led me to create this identity for myself. And I honestly tried really hard to stick with it, because I thought eventually that once I like commit to it long enough, that it would eventually feel right. But when it didn't, it really sucked, because I really thought it was gonna work. But like, honestly, it just made me feel more lost and more disconnected and stuck, and it just made it worse, you know what I mean? And anytime I like went to go seek advice from other people to like see how I can, figure out myself and figure out my passions and purpose and stuff, the general advice was to niche down and stick with the niche, you know what I mean? And I was just so annoyed by that, because I did try that and it didn't work for me, and all it did was stress me out more and more, which honestly just sucked even more. So I decided that I wouldn't pretend anymore. I realized that you can't really build your life around something that you force yourself into, and you can't create a real identity from fear. So what I did was I let myself feel lost. I let myself sit in that uncertainty. And honestly, it was a lot easier, because like once somebody asked me like, "Oh, what are you going to do next year for your future career?" I just told them I didn't know. Like, genuinely, straight up, flat on, I do not know. Because how am I going to predict my own future when I don't even know who I am right now? You know what I mean? But honestly, like, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I stopped fighting it. I just let myself float for a while in this space. It was extremely uncomfortable. It wasn't easy. But once I did, I actually started to notice things, right? Because once I forced myself into this identity, I kind of blinded myself to the other versions of myself. So once I let go of the need to control who I am and to know who I am from the jump, I actually started noticing all the little sparks around me, right? Like the little sparks of interest, those random curiosities. And for once, I stopped overthinking and I just followed them. Even like the really small, tiny, little spark of interest, I decided to just do it. Even if it didn't make sense to me at the time, even if it didn't fit the version of myself that I thought I had to be, I just gave myself the permission to explore and to try different things. And that's when I really realized the most important thing, even though it's so simple, it all starts with a tiny little spark of interest, just a little one. And that tiny pull towards something leads to a cascade of experiences, and eventually those experiences lead to passion. And honestly, it all just starts with that one curiosity, you know what I mean? Because one curiosity leads to another, and then eventually you build passion. And it doesn't just apply to work, school, career, whatever. It applies to all aspects of yourself. And it's important to remember that passion isn't something you're supposed to magically figure out when you're 18. It's something that is built. So you have to stay open to new ideas, and you need to be able to tell yourself yes over and over again and let yourself experience new things. And that is why it's okay or even necessary to feel lost sometimes because it gives you room to notice all these little sparks around you. And once I let myself do that, I did notice all the sparks around me and all these opportunities that I've been turning a blind eye to. So at some point, I just decided to apply to a bunch of different programs and forget about them. If people get back to me, wonderful. If people don't get back to me, wonderful. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget this day. It was actually just such a random thing. I think one of my friends recommended this research program that she thought I'd be interested in. And it was like, it helps you get a foot in the door or whatever. So I was like, you know what? Let me just apply. I applied, forgot about it. I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, I was on like a family trip, winter break in California, and I got this email saying that I got accepted into this program. I'll be working agriculture. And I was like, it didn't really align with who I was at the time because I was interested in human biology, human health. I was like, what is agriculture gonna do for me? You know what I mean? But then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna walk in there and I'm just like, because the opportunity's there. It's right there, like in front of me. Why not take it? You know what I mean? And I remember I went to go meet with the grad student and the PI, and I remember them like asking me like, what do you expect to gain from this? And I was like, I'm not even exactly sure yet. I was like, I'm here to learn whatever I need to learn, you know what I mean? And I was really open to learning about agriculture, and all like, it was a whole new world to me at the time. And being open to that, I've learned so much. I learned a lot about my interests, and I had a good time doing it, you know what I mean? So the whole idea is to be a little bit more open to everything, like not niche down. Because if I decided that I didn't want to do that and I said no to the program, and I wanted to switch because it didn't align with my interests or who I was, I would not have had the experiences that I've had there. And I had a good time. Like, genuinely, I learned so much, and I'm grateful till this day. And honestly, like, if I got the opportunity to go to Brazil and do some volunteer work or something, would I have done it? Yeah, I would have done it. Why not? And I feel like all these opportunities and stuff pop up for a reason, and they come up to guide you to become the person that you're meant to be. You know what I mean? And yeah, it might feel a little uncomfortable because there's always going to be chaos before the calm, and you're supposed to feel unsure about things. You're supposed to question things, and you're supposed to be a little confused sometimes, and those would lead to some sort of answers, and it will help shape you into the person that you're meant to be. And the person that I am today is not going to be the same person I am 20 years from now, because we are meant to evolve. I'm not going to have the same interests that I do. I'm not going to have sparks for things, you know what I mean? Because some sparks do fade, and it's just like, go with what really feels right and see where it leads you. So if you're sitting there right now feeling a little lost and thinking that you don't know who you are, you don't have any passions or whatever, just know that that is totally normal, and you're really just early in your own story, because identity itself isn't something that you decide once and stick with it forever. It's something that you live into, right, through experiences and mistakes and those small little sparks that build into something bigger. So you need to just be open and stay curious and not niche down too early, because there's nothing wrong with niching down. People love to niche down often. It's just that once you niche down too early, you might miss all the opportunities and all those experiences that were meant to help you grow. So you need to stay curious, ask questions, and let yourself become the person that you're meant to be. And I just want to say, I'm not sitting here saying that I have all the answers to find identity, purpose, or whatever, because honestly, I'm still in the journey of figuring it out for myself. And we're just in this period where we're meant to discover more. So don't be too hard on yourself, or don't close yourself off too early, because I feel like life is all about experiences. So why not take the risk of experiencing it? And just remember that you don't find yourself by thinking, you find yourself by living. So go have those crazy experiences that life throws at you and have fun doing it. Anywho, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. And if you like this episode, please feel free to leave a comment and a review. And if you like this podcast, please feel free to share it with your friends, family. And if you want, you can put it on your socials and tag me at AnsPOV. And yeah, I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your day. And I will see you guys in the next episode.